This video is going to be my reaction to the Lions' 47-9 win over the Cowboys on the road in Week 6, a game that was simultaneously a lot of fun and almost shocking to watch for 2.5 quarters, and then the injury to Aiden Hutchinson really, I think, deflated so much for me, just documenting the game and watching the Lions. I'm sure for you as a Lions fan. I'll deal with that a little bit later here in the video. There was to focus on the positive, there's so many guys playing at a high level today. Complete one-sided performance against the Cowboys on the road. You can't watch that and think that, oh, if they have Micah Parsons and Deron Bland, that they're going to change the gameplay that much. The Lions are deep. They play incredibly hard, and they're very physical, and they get after you on both sides of the ball. Aaron Glenn and that defense, I thought, were at a different level today. They did a great job against Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb shut down the run game. It shouldn't be surprising. I mean, Dallas has had a one-dimensional offense all year. They really just cannot run the ball at all. The terrible aspect of this is you go on the road, totally dismantle a team in a revenge game, essentially, leading into your first divisional game of 2024, and then you lose a franchise player like Aiden Hutchinson, a terrible play and break. Another example that the sport is really just not fair in any way, shape, or form. And look, I said this in our Lions Discord. I think I said this in a video in the offseason. I think Aiden Hutchinson at this point is on a Hall of Fame track at this point. Losing Aiden Hutchinson isn't just losing a really, really good football player. First of all, you lost him on a sack in a really dominant performance by the defense. I think was credited for like 16 or 18 pressures, 4 sacks, maybe more. It's just a crushing blow to a season that if you were to somehow remove the injuries that happened to Davenport, Barnes, and now Hutchinson at the D end outside linebacker position. I know Barnes is more of a hybrid. This team's on a Super Bowl path. You can see it from the quality of the defense. When you see a player of his caliber, his effort and energy level go down, it's deflating to watch as a fan. It's deflating to be on the field. You could see it. I think on the sideline, defensive players were unsure of how to react. You guys, as Lions fans, I feel for you because I feel like you should have been able to react to this and enjoy it in a cathartic manner because you're winning in Dallas in such a ridiculous fashion. Let's see what the Lions front office gets done. I personally thought that the re-signing of Montgomery last week was to create cap space to make a move this week anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. The interpretation that I had of Montgomery's re-signing was that they converted his salary so they were able to clear some space for this year and next year, but I might be wrong in that regard. So I thought a move was coming, and now you may need two. But there's lots of options out there. It feels crass and too soon to mention that, but I am going to get to those later. I can give you two personally that I'm aware of. Offensively, Detroit, it was a ridiculous performance. 492 yards of offense. They basically could do no wrong with the football, especially in the first half. Everyone played a role. They averaged 7.5 yards per play on the night, scoring on their first 5 possessions, up 27-6 at the half. I really thought Ben Johnson on one of the possessions in the second quarter, they were kind of playing with their food a little bit and they had to settle for a field goal. Really, though, in the third quarter, didn't stop rolling up big yards or big plays. Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery. You had the double reverse pass to Laporta. I think that's the same exact play he scored on. I believe it was against the Panthers in 2023, but I'll have to go look a little bit later tonight when I get an opportunity. I know it was at home. I know it was up the right sideline. Looked like the same exact play, but I want to talk about the first 3 possessions. You go out there and go 5 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. 12 plays, 58 yards, field goal. And then the third possession, the touchdown pass to Laporta, 3 plays, 63 yards. Incredible efficiency, 17 points just like that. It was over. It was really over. I mean, hell, it was probably over when you had 10 points. The running backs ran the ball effectively. Montgomery was almost supercharged at times. His ability to break tackles, everything was working on offense, and the defense was on fire. I believe the broadcast credited the Lions with 16 or 18 pressures or more. I have no idea how they judge that live speed. What the heck a pressure is anyway. I think they did generate 4 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. Branch and Joseph combined for 3 interceptions. Branch forced a fumble, had another pass deflection. He played fantastic. When the Cowboys had the ball, it was almost like they were playing defense for parts of this game. That's how good I thought Detroit's defense was for about a 4 possession stretch. it looked like Dak Prescott and those guys were playing defense because they were reacting. Branch also had Joseph also had a late interception against the Cowboys backups. I think he has 4 for the year this far. It's pretty incredible what those guys were able to do at the safety position. I thought Amik Robertson competed when they put CeeDee Lamb in the slot. One really poor coverage snap in the third quarter before Hutchinson got hurt. I thought he played well. I want to talk about Jared Goff for a moment here. I'm not going to show a possession review. There's really no need to. They all pretty much look the same. I'll do a possession review video tomorrow morning, though. Look, Goff was 18 of 25. He's like stuck on 18 completions. I think he's at 18 each of the last 3 games. Check out his completion percentage and efficiency in the last 3 weeks. Feel free to double check my math here. I got him at 54 of 66 passing in the last 3 weeks with 7 touchdowns and 1 interception. If I did my math right, as far as the completion percentage, 81%, almost 82% if you round up. It's ridiculous. Heading into a collision with what everyone thinks is the NFL's buzzsaw on defense. We'll see. Goff shredded him twice last year. I thought Ben Johnson did a fantastic job. That matchup is going to be interesting. I'm not willing to budge an inch on the fact that I think that the Lions are going to be able to move the ball effectively against that defense. Let's talk about Montgomery and Gibbs for a moment. They combined for 143 yards on the ground, 12 carries. Look, I knew that Dallas's run defense was poor, but then missing Parsons, is that a net positive or a negative in terms of run defense? I'm not sure. But missing Lawrence was a big factor. And Kendricks as well. He's playing well. Those guys averaged over 10 yards per carry. Montgomery scored 2 touchdowns. Jameson Williams actually got into act again as a rusher. I love the reverse flavor or some of the things that Ben Johnson's doing. He clearly was trying to get the O-lineman a touchdown. I think he was really close on the lateral to Sewell, where they called Ragnow down the field. I don't know about that one. I thought the ball was caught behind the line of scrimmage from the angle I saw. But the NFL refs, I don't think, liked the fact that the Lions were styling down there inside the red zone or inside the 10 with some of those calls. You could see I think you could tell Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell are still pissed, as well they should be. The refs absolutely screwed up that situation last year. I think everyone knows it. And trying to get Decker or Sewell a touchdown, it seemed, I don't know, it doesn't seem petty to me, but there did seem to be a certain point, particularly as we got late in the third quarter, where I even said in our Lions Discord, like, hey, let's get these guys off the field. Let's get any starter who's of tremendous value off the field, especially given what happened to Aiden Hutchinson. I've been involved in those situations where you're leading by 30, 40 points and nothing's happened. Occasionally a coach, usually me in my experience, would be the one to say, hey, let's get these guys off the field. And I even mean my best defensive players. I didn't want to see anybody get hurt in a game that didn't matter. I know other coaches that go in the opposite direction. They want their players to play 3 quarters no matter what because they don't want them to get accustomed or used to only playing the first half. Jameson Williams at this point I don't know what his yards per catch is going to be. I know coming in it was 22.2. He had the 38-yard touchdown in the third quarter that just continued the onslaught. I walked away from the stream for a moment. I come back and he scored. He had another touchdown the refs called back. I just don't feel like there's any consistency in those pick-rub concepts. Look, Gibbs certainly makes contact, okay? However, I see players extending and clearly blocking down the field in other games, and it's not called. Basically, the factor that I think plays the biggest part in it is this. If you're on offense and your team is wearing red, they're not going to call it. But Williams had 3 catches today for 76 yards, good enough for a little over 25 yards per catch. Kind of amazing so far in 2024. I'll do a film study video on YouTube or either on Twitter about him later this week. The fourth quarter, I was glad to see Dan Campbell get the guys off the field that were important. They're all important, but I mean the starters, the guys that you're relying on on a play-by-play basis. I was glad to see them get those guys off the field. It was 37-9 going into the fourth quarter. Really, no reason for those guys to be out there at all. I thought, little first half recap, I thought when they took a 20-3 lead with about 4 minutes left, ends up being a 48-yard field goal by Bates. I thought Ben Johnson was kind of playing with his food on that possession once they got down inside the red zone. There was a first down run play to Montgomery. Then there's a play action screen to Montgomery that gets blown up for me on that. And again, I'm making these notes in the second quarter, so it's fine for you if you're like, Coach, why are you being so negative about this situation? I make my notes at the time, and I'm reading them out to you now from the first half. I did not like that play call at all. I understand you want to control the football late in the second quarter, but give me a target of St. Brown or, God forbid, Laporte, who only got one target on the day, the double reverse pass. So I didn't like the second down play action screen to Montgomery, but they're able to get a stop on the next possession. A big catch by Tim Patrick on a dig route versus cover two. After a fourth down stop, in fact, of the Cowboys offense. They 2 plays later, it looks like Patrick is in the end zone. I don't know about you. I was rooting for it to be a touchdown. Like, I don't think he's as fast as he looked 2020 and 2021. His knee was down, obviously, initially ruled in the end zone, but I'm rooting for him to succeed. Those routes, I think it's safe to call them the Josh Reynolds routes. Those dig routes underneath the safety, over top the linebacker level, that don't necessarily require a ton of speed. You just got to be in pretty much the right place at the right time. I think Tim Patrick is filling that bill. You may disagree. Let me know what you think of that thought in the comment section. So, nonetheless, they're able to get a short touchdown run by Montgomery. Really cool play. Ben Johnson put 7 offensive line on the field. They had 2 guys report. I was writing notes, or typing, I should say, and I put, who's reporting here? Because both guys are talking to the ref. They both were given a signal. Of course, the signal didn't matter last year. It was the verbal confirmation that the ref screwed up. They both reported eligible. I thought for sure a pass was coming. Instead, Montgomery punches it in, make it 27-3. Cowboys get that big return late second quarter, and then the second sack by Aiden McNeil. It was like, even if the Cowboys got something going, first 2 possessions weren't bad for them offensively. Of course, the interception on the second possession by Branch, a brilliant catch. And they were held to a field goal on the first one. But this one is 27-3, late second quarter. Cowboys get a huge return by Turpin. They're down there at the 30, and Aiden McNeil gets a sack. Just a big play by him to dominate the right guard, push Dallas back. At that point, when you get to halftime up 27-6, the Lions have 262 yards of offense. They're averaging 7.3 yards per play. Goff, to that moment, is 11 of 16 for 178. I even made a note at halftime. I said, how did Goff throw 5 interceptions? Because he's been so efficient the last 3 weeks. I think it's been pretty incredible, the low amount of pass plays that are actually out there right now, but the high level efficiency. There's something there. I can't yet put my finger on it. Dallas at the half had 14 yards rushing on 8 carries. Just a very one-dimensional offense. Same thing, same dynamic that I saw when the Ravens went to Dallas and beat them in week 3. Cowboys were 1 of 7 on third downs in the first half, only 111 yards of offense while giving up 2 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. One-sided game. My notes at halftime said, at this point, the way that it's flowing, I'd like to see starters get off the field at some point in the third quarter. And then lo and behold, Aiden Hutchinson goes down with a horrible injury in the third quarter. The Lions still kept getting pressure on the quarterback. And in fact, a couple of guys in our Discord, one of which who was at the game live, in fact, noted that. Like, we're still able to get pressure. Dallas tried to close down. I think they got down inside the red zone sometime late third quarter. There's a lot of game left with 9 minutes left in the third quarter when Hutchinson gets hurt. At that point, I would not have had a problem if Dan Campbell pulled off the most important players, but Campbell's dedicated to his position. He's committed to his position. So even when something horrible like that happens to such an important player, he's not going to veer off of what the plan was for the game. I do have some thoughts on the options there. And it's probably too soon for that because you guys as Lions fans just watched what I think is a Hall of Fame track, classic Lions player when his career's done, get injured and be out for the season, quite obviously. Don't get stuck on the individual players here, but just from my own limited knowledge of 2 situations with the Ravens, I want to give you 2 names, opposite ends of the spectrum. You want Max Crosby. I get it. I do too, for you. But you better be ready to give up a first and more to make that happen. Here's a name for you, Yannick Ngakoue. He's got 70 career sacks, I believe, at this point. He's playing well for the Ravens. He's actually on our practice squad right now. You didn't show up to my reaction video to hear about a Ravens player, but you could, here's my point. You could snatch him up with no outgoing trade. That's a no-brainer for me. Under the NFL rules, I believe, if he's on someone's practice squad and you can claim him and put him on your active roster, then I don't think there's anything that him or the Ravens can do about it. And I may misunderstand the dynamic there. From a Ravens perspective, I want them to protect him. For you as a Lions fan, I want you to go get him because he'd be an instant starter as a pass rush guy. No question, far more talented than all the other guys that are out there. He's playing for us right now, in fact, multiple snaps. The other guy, again, it's a Ravens player on the other end of the spectrum, Adisa Isaac. We drafted him in the 3rd round. Don't get caught up on the player necessarily. He did play for Penn State. The idea here is you have more options than you think for this year. Why? Because Brad Holmes in the front office was prepared for it. They weren't prepared for Aiden Hutchinson to go down, Marcus Davenport, or Derek Barnes, but they were prepared to have to go out and make a move potentially before the trade deadline. Obviously, you have to. There's no way to predict all 3 of Davenport, Barnes, and Hutchinson go down for either the entire season or long stretches. I understand that Barnes' injury history, you would say, I could predict that, coach. Well, yeah, but Barnes and Hutchinson are so durable and rugged, is a freak play tonight. The other aspect, or the other 2 that I think that make the most sense, you have options outside of a veteran who happens to be on a practice squad like Ngakoue, has a lot of pass rush juice left, or a young player, large upside like Adisa Isaac, who's not going to play for the Ravens this year. He's like 5th or 6th on our depth chart. Crosby, look, you're talking about 2 firsts and a 5th, or something ridiculous that they're going to want. You want that to happen, and I got no problem with that desire on your end. Reddick from the Jets, he's not going to play for them this year. He may not be a good fit, to be real. So I understand the desire to talk about him as well. Perhaps it's too soon for all of that. I feel terrible for you guys that you had to sit and see that today on a game that was probably so much fun to watch to that point. The dichotomy, the duality of your feelings about this game have to be difficult to reconcile. It is for me. I stopped charting after the Aiden Hutchinson injury. I usually chart everything, and after the Aiden Hutchinson injury, I stopped charting because A, I like the player so much, B, the dude, the way he talks about the game, the way he plays, the effort, and then the production obviously is the biggest part of it. If he wasn't producing those first 2 things that I listed, I wouldn't care about, wouldn't even know his name. This is a difficult situation. I think the front office for Detroit is uniquely prepared to handle it. They had just cleared space last week, if I understand the dynamic correctly, and at least give you the option to go out and do a 1-for-1 trade. Basically, get someone who can perhaps replace Aiden Hutchinson like a Max Crosby. Not many other front offices in the NFL are capable of getting that done right now. You guys let me know what you think of my thoughts on this game. I didn't provide a possession breakdown. I'll do a possession breakdown tomorrow. Actually, I'm going to do a first 3 possession breakdown of how the Lions, I think, were manipulating the Cowboys using multiple personnel groups and formations. So I'll try to have that out as early as possible tomorrow. The film supposedly is going to be out incredibly early on a Monday, so I'm going to be up early trying to get work done. If you let me know of any ideas you have for a film study video, I'd appreciate it in the comment section. Obviously, I'm going to do a Brian Branch film study this week, probably Tuesday evening. I'll be traveling most of the afternoon on Monday. I appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this reaction to their absolutely dominant win over the Cowboys in Week 6, pushing their record to 4-1, heading into a big matchup in the division against the Vikings, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.